Welcome to Visionary AI Partners Podcast. I'm your host, Ed Moran. Today, I am joined by Paula Macpherson, Executive Director of Velocity, an organization driving innovation and growth across the manufacturing, technology, and defense industries. Paula, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You built an impressive career in property and asset management. Tell us a bit about your journey and what brought you to Velocity.
Sure. So that really was kind of an accident. I was working for my family's commercial industrial business, and I think the banks were getting a little bit loose and free, doing 110% mortgages. And I kept telling everybody, we're going to see a market crash, and rentals that's going to be the next big thing, because people's credit is going to be destroyed, but you're still going to have families that need homes. And so I had my real estate license for a while. I had always planned on buying like small apartment complexes. And so just kind of watching what was happening in the lending industry, I thought, I'm going to hang out for a minute and see what happens. And sure enough, we did get that big housing crash in 2008. And I was fortunate enough to have a friend that was working for a bunch of banks. And so we partnered and started buying and selling foreclosed homes. And I ended up owning quite a few and leasing them out and selling them on land contracts and, all of that. And it was a lot of fun. And then kind of fast forward to 2000 and I don't know what it was, like 9, 10. I ended up getting an opportunity to work for a private equity firm, which I thought was interesting. I don't really have the background for it. And, but I had always had a interest in learning, how do big deals get done? Because you read about things like big acquisition with Google or Apple or, these huge businesses. And you think like, man, who's got that kind of money and how does that work? So I applied for a role as an executive assistant, and the owner was gracious enough to interview me. And I said, listen, I'm a terrible typist. I don't make great coffee, but I will come and work for you and I will do my best. And, but really what I'm after is kind of this, this fast education in private equity. And so he agreed, and I stayed with him for about 10 years. I had the opportunity to work on 55 different transactions and kind of worked my way up through the ranks. So, doing pre-deal diligence, post-deal diligence. He would maybe buy a company and I would go and work at that portfolio company for a while in the capacity of operations or something else, wherever they needed help. So I got a lot of great experience kind of crammed into this like roughly, 10-year period. And it was amazing. And then everything happened with COVID and the market went bananas. And my boss was like, I think I'm going to retire. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I did some private consulting for some different companies locally and wasn't really feeling fulfilled by it in the way that I thought I would. And so this opportunity came up to work here at Velocity, and we're a Michigan Economic Development Corp Smart Zone. And with that Smart Zone designation, it allows us to apply for different grants and offer educational opportunities to our local business community here in the county. And, so they had this job opening and I took it. And it's been great. And I'm so glad that I did. We get to work with lots and lots of entrepreneurs and business owners. It's been kind of a weird ride. My resume looks bananas on the surface. If you look at it, you're like, what does this lady do? But it's funny how each of those experiences kind of stacked on to one another. And, sometimes I'm even like, wow, I have just a little bit of knowledge about so many different things.
I was going to ask you, how has that shaped you for your role here?
Yeah, it's super helpful, right? Because as I'm working with businesses, I have an understanding and an awareness of the plastic blow mold industry. I have an understanding and awareness of wood flooring industry, of the transportation industry, of a lot of different industries that it's really hard to get exposure to and learn about unless you get to just kind of dive in and do it. And so it's been immensely helpful in the role that I'm in now.
For listeners who might not know Velocity, how would you describe what makes your team and your approach stand out in the market today?
For me, everybody that I've hired on my team either is currently an entrepreneur or has been an entrepreneur in the past. So they've owned their own businesses. So that when we're counseling business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs, we aren't just guessing at it, and it's not something that we read in a book. I myself have owned lots of other businesses aside from property management and real estate. You know, I owned a deli, I owned a fashion boutique, I've owned a lot of things. But that's just to say that, you know, you can't tell someone else what it's like or counsel them unless you've actually lived in their shoes. You know, everybody on my staff has had to make the decision between paying the electric bill and the gas bill. Which one's going to shut you off first? Yeah. You know, what do I gamble on and how do I make payroll this week? You know, those are real challenges that real startups have. And everybody on my team has had to make those decisions for themselves. And so I think that is really helpful.
Gives you real world experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And valuable as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Valuable. So you've had hands-on-hand experience across student housing, multifamily, and even military housing.
I haven't really done anything with military housing so much.
Oh, okay. What's unique about managing those different types of communities?
It depends on the client that you're working for, right? Because they all have different needs. So if it's, you know, you're owning a rental and you're renting it to someone, you're on call 24/7. If you're providing asset management services, depending on what's in that contract, you might be doing everything, right? From collecting late payments, knocking on the door saying, hey, Mr. Smith, you know, you didn't pay your rent last month and you need to get caught up, to, you know, delivering bad news, right? To the property owner saying, hey, bad news, your hot water tank went out. We had to replace it. And by the way, we're going to bill you for that, you know, in addition to your regular service contract. So pluses and minuses, but you're always on call. You're always on call.
So what technology has become a big part of your operations to help you with that kind of stuff? The tools or systems that you guys have created to be more efficient, to make like data-driven decisions?
Yeah. So I would say right now, you know, I'm not doing as much in the property management space. I've kind of hung that hat up. Not that I don't still have the drive for it, but I just don't. It's not the thing that's lighting my fire, you know? And so really I'm focused on the smart zone here at Velocity. And, you know, we've employed a lot of different tools. We have a lot of data points. And what a lot of folks don't understand is that when we work with an entrepreneur, we have to report on them, depending on the grant, anywhere from quarterly to twice a year for 5 years from the date that we serve them. Okay. So to give you a good example of how that number snowballs, imagine that I serve you, Ed, with a grant, right, in this year. I'm going to follow you for 5 years. And depending on where that grant came from, could be quarterly, could be biannually. Then let's say in year 2, I serve you with another new grant. Well, the clock just started ticking again because I'm going to, you know, and so on average, we serve anywhere from 500 to 600 clients a year, new clients. And then you kind of sprinkle in, let's say 200 or 300 from year 1, we reservice. So, you know, year 1 might be 500. Year 2 might be 700 or 800, and that number just keeps snowballing, and that tail doesn't go away. It just keeps growing. So it's a tall order. So we have a CRM system that we use that was custom built for organizations like ours that are in economic development. It was built by a company called EIC, and it's a really intelligent solution, and it helps us do all of this surveying and tracking. And then we are also using ChatGPT. So we have a lot of grants. All of them have different requirements for how we administrate them.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Yeah. So it's like the qualifiers, right? So anytime we work with someone, the first thing that we do is have them fill out an intake. The intake is like 3 pages long, and it tracks all of this demographic data about them, because some grants are based on demographics. Some are based on industry. Some are driven by revenue. So there's all these different drivers, right? And so we collect all this data from you when you first come to us. we sift through that data with this tool, and then we go through, we have all of our grants are uploaded. And so then the system will go through and say, okay, based on these demographics, these are the grants that you've got in-house that are an opportunity. And based on these demographics, these are grants out in the world that you could help them apply for that match.
Okay.
Because there really is no solution, at least not in Michigan. I've talked to other people in other ecosystems, and they also have the same challenge of trying to figure out, how do you track these grants and how do you figure them out?
And
yeah, it's a lot.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot.
I can only imagine, especially with you guys doing so many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, last year we gave $600,000 out in both direct grants and technical assistance. And I think this year we're on pace to do about the same. And we also matched people with funding from VCs and angels of 19.2 million. And I think this year we're at like 14 million. So that's no small feat to try to track all those places to find funding for businesses.
So what's been your biggest challenge as far as the technology and as far as it applies to Velocity?
I would say the biggest challenge, ChatGPT and some of these other things that are out there have been great tools. The biggest challenge has been learning how to build the right prompts to get the right data out and to consistently get the right data. I think that's the biggest problem. I think AI is so new. And we've found some different little kind of glitches based on the way that maybe you would word something. Sometimes it would kick out a totally random grant to apply for a client. And so we've had to get really specific about the language and the prompts that we're putting in. That's kind of one. And then I would say the other one is that sometimes the back end of AI, where it's scraping data from, is not always the most reliable source, or it's outdated, or it's not grabbing enough data to make a good decision.
It's funny you saying that. I just was talking to another client this morning and was talking about almost the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. More property management, but the same thing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So those are probably your big challenges.
Yeah, they're the biggest ones. They're the biggest ones. I mean, so right now we do have an entrepreneur that is in our accelerator that's been kind of working on a tool that has a script behind it that does the scraping to grab data. The problem is that it's still really labor intensive to run those scripts, and the script is only as good as what you put into it.
Yes.
And there's still a lot of back end build to keep it accurate. So I think as AI evolves over the next couple of years, I think it will get easier. But, we caution everybody we work with, don't count on that data. You better verify it.
Yeah, we're getting new updates. It seems like every week. So it's not, I actually just got another update on one of our systems yesterday. Mm-hmm. It really is going incredibly fast, though. And in 3 months, it'll be almost outdated. That's how fast it's going. Mm-hmm. Incredible time as far as technology and what it could do and mm-hmm. how it could help. But there is still some bugs. Mm-hmm. Or, you have to work through them and work them out and get things more efficient. But it could happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it will. I think we'll see it probably in the next, couple of years. I think we'll see it.
Where is your company? You guys are doing how many 600 plus grants a year?
We did $600,000 in grants.
How many grants are you doing?
Oh, individual grants that we wrote. I would say average grants are probably anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 on average.
Okay.
There was a couple that were larger, 50 or 20,000 sprinkled in there.
And where do you guys see yourselves going in the next 6 to 12 months as far as technology, as far as growth, locations, so on and so forth?
Mm-hmm. I think we'll probably stay in the same location. We're pretty comfortable. We have a 34,000 square foot facility here in Sterling Heights, Michigan, and we're partnered directly with the city. The city owns the building, and it is a revenue stream for our programming that we do here. So I don't anticipate that we would leave here. And then as far as technology and growth, right now we're kind of waiting through because a lot of our funding is grant funding, right? And so it's federal and state. And I work a lot with Department of Defense. So we're kind of at the mercy of their budgets and what they open up. And we're also at the mercy of the state, right? And budgets that they put together. And then kind of as we grow, looking at revenue streams, right? The building is a revenue stream. But we know that we're going to probably have to start charging at some point for some of the things that we do. And then also looking outside of the state and federal grant funding, looking toward private funders, looking toward banks and financial institutions, toward their CRA dollars, and just getting really creative about, who we can kind of partner with for funding.
Wow, that's a lot. Can you talk to me a little bit about the defense contracts?
Yeah. So defense is an interesting one. In Macomb County, we have 1,700 manufacturers. And one of the things that people don't realize about Macomb County is that more of the primes that are in the defense space, so Army, etc., they have headquarters here between a neighboring city, which is Warren, and Sterling Heights. And it's about a 10-mile stretch along one road. And there is more aerospace and defense R&D and engineering happening in that 10-mile stretch than anywhere else in the Midwest. We actually call it like the Midwest defense capital because there's so much. It's a $62 billion industry here in Michigan. People do not realize, and I'm sure that number has grown exponentially because we're also starting to do things with submarines. And then we're starting to see a lot of projects coming out of NASA as well, as aerospace. So very quietly, there's a lot of defense industry happening here. And in Macomb County in particular, those 1,700 manufacturers, I would say probably half or just over are probably manufacturing things that are directly for the defense industry in some way, shape, or form.
Wow. That's I didn't expect that answer.
It's huge.
I had no idea. That's great information and great opportunity for you guys.
Yeah, huge. It's a huge opportunity. I think the other thing that's been interesting is we are the international landing zone for Macomb County. There's only a few throughout the state, and they're sprinkled throughout the country as well. And the idea behind the international landing zone is to provide a space as well as opportunities, right? So maybe it's grant opportunities, maybe it's legal work, etc., for foreign businesses to be able to come and establish a U.S. footprint and start manufacturing locally. And now with so many different regulations coming down from the Defense Department of Defense, well, actually, it's now the Department of War. I can't seem to work that into my nomenclature, but I'll get there.
I believe it used to be war. Then they went to defense.
Yeah.
They're back to war.
Yeah. It's like we were on the defense, the offense, I don't know. But anyway, it's interesting.
Government.
Yeah. So with that, we're finding a lot of foreign businesses that, maybe previously were supplying in some way, shape, or form to Department of Defense that, now they're being requested to be U.S. side, or to have a stronger presence locally. And it makes sense for them to want to land here in Michigan and in Macomb County specifically, because we do have so many of the defense primes are actually here.
Okay.
So it makes it easier for them to meet with their customer on a regular basis.
Okay. Wow. That's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Good opportunity. What other opportunities do you guys see coming down the road?
It's interesting. A lot of it's going to depend on government spending and kind of what happens. And it's also going to depend. We're also very strongly automotive. I mean, we are the Motor City. And so there's still a lot of automotive that happens here. I think that automotive has shrunk a little bit in this last year or so, primarily just because of, kind of this push-pull with EVs. So many, so many manufacturers said, we're full bore EVs. And now that the president has kind of rolled some of that back, I think the big three, well, it's more than the big three now. They've all kind of changed their trajectory too. So, I think that there will be opportunity in automotive again. I think that we've just hit kind of a cycle in automotive, every 9 or 10 years, real estate, automotive, all of it, it's cyclical. There's always kind of ups and downs. And I think we're just kind of hitting that reset in automotive. So I think there will be automotive. The other one that we're seeing a lot of growth in is drones. There's a big call by the defense industry for drones. And, not only for lethal uses, but also for border security. That's another big one. And I think you'll start to see it more in the consumer-based industry, so for security around properties, large scale properties. I think you'll see it for security in those ways. I think you're going to start to see it, in window washing. You're going to start to see it there. You're going to start to see it in painting.
Really?
Yeah. We're seeing a lot of that technology, and I think we'll continue to see it grow. Macomb County is kind of interesting because we have 27 communities kind of sandwiched in this county. We have urban, suburban, and then we have rural. We have farming that actually happens like just up the road from where I'm sitting right now. I could get in the car and go 4 miles north and find actual huge farms. And so, we're starting to see drones in farming too. Okay. Anywhere from, pesticide spraying to crop monitoring, to even, brush fires and fire prevention. So I think drones are here. They're not going to go away. Oh, we're going to see a lot of it. Yeah.
Well, if you remember, how was it, 2-3 years ago, all the drones in New Jersey?
Yes.
Nobody knew what it was. They thought it was UFOs and everything. And people were shooting at them and everything.
Yes, they're like, it's end times.
Yeah, it was crazy. And then, of course, come to find out, it was our government testing drones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely see that. You see that in Russia and Ukraine war. They're using them like crazy. I know the Iran, Israel, they use drones. It's becoming a major piece in the defense or war department.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. And your company is a lot of different aspect that I think gives you a lot of opportunity. And in the next 5-10 years, I think you guys, I'll let you answer that, but the next 5-10 years, you guys, what's your expectations?
So my expectation is that our organization continues to grow. I think we'll always be, a nonprofit organization, which is great. But I do think that we will start to see, some other growth in some other areas with revenue streams. And, my goal overall for our organization is, for us to be 10 million in excess revenue streaming within the next 10 years, my goal.
Okay, that's a nice goal. Last but not least, is there anything you want to promote for your company or?
Yeah. So I would say, if you are a business owner or you're an aspiring entrepreneur in Macomb County, regardless of size, we let people come to us idea on a napkin. And we've also worked with manufacturing companies who have created spin-out technology, and there are 32 million in revenue. So we're equipped to work with businesses of any size. I think if you own a business or you're thinking about starting one, you definitely should reach out to us. We not only have lots of resources here, but we also have access to resources statewide and also nationally. So don't try to go it alone. There are resources that you can tap into that are oftentimes free or lower cost. And we can get folks connected to those opportunities.
And how do they find you?
So you can find us online at mivelocity.com.
Excellent. Paula, thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your insights on leadership, operations, and innovation at Velocity. Your perspective really sheds light on what it takes to drive results and support your teams effectively. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe to and like Visionary AI Partners for your conversations with leaders who are shaping the future of business and real estate. I'm Ed Moran. Until next time, stay visionary.